Right, this next section is called several issues that has a common theme of dividing the people that I'd like to highlight this week. And one of the things which really should have been in the news section earlier, but we can highlight it in this section anyway, is it's been revealed that the government in the UK have took £24 million surplus out of the national insurance contributions, which is the equivalent of social security payments in America, and paid it towards the national debt. That £24 million belongs to the people and should have been returned in some format or other. Now, a video emerged this past week of how an Israeli soldier violently attacked a disabled Palestinian old man in a wheelchair and then deliberately pushed him and the chair over and attacked the man on the floor. And then the Israeli forces assaulted the Palestinian bystanders who were trying to help the old man. And this goes on a daily basis over there. And it's a shame on all world governments who indifferently allow this to happen. On the same day, hundreds of people attended the funeral of an autistic Palestinian man who was shot dead by Israeli police. Mr. Aid Hal-Ak, 32, was killed on Saturday in occupied East Jerusalem while he walked to his special needs school. And yet again, it's another example of how Israel thinks of other people. Pushing elderly out of their wheelchairs and shooting dead a special needs person is just about the lowest of the low. And yet successive US presidents, including the oh-so-different Mr. Trump, sends this death cult country our American tax dollars. We have to stop it. We the people. Now I received this report about homeschooling that I thought would be useful to bring up to a wider audience of what they're up to again. And the person said every parent needs to pay attention. I'm homeschooling my daughter and we chose time for learning, and it is a difficult program for my fourth grader, so I have to help her. I was helping her today with her schoolwork when government private corporation Pro-Pagan Dar surfaced in the material. And she said, I have a background in military intelligence and I am very aware of psychological operations. And the lesson was on supporting ideas with evidence. And the creator of the lesson used cute, comical characters like Rita and JP to task the students with an article to read. And the article was titled 10 Cool Inventions. And the mother said, immediately, I'm beginning to think it sounds like a sales pitch. And so I took pictures of the article for you all to decide for yourselves. And it's written like a commercial. And one of the inventions they highlighted read like this. Number 4 of the cool inventions for a fourth grader, I might add, which is age 9 for those in America, in the UK and Europe. Number 4, under your skin invention, Verichip. Price $200 plus a monthly fee. What's in it for you? It's no bigger than a grain of rice, and this device provides lots of information. Implanted under a person's skin, the gadget can give you personal identification data to people such as police or rescue squads. In future, chips with satellite technology might help locate people who are lost. How it works. Each ferrochip contains a number that is read by a special scanner, barcode. That number is entered into a computer which connects the number to information about the person who had the chip implanted. And she said what followed was even scarier. They make the kids watch a special video where they show a scared kid having a chip implanted in his arm with a scanner. But remember, it's a cool invention. Unbelievable, the lengths they will go to control people. And this is called psychological conditioning. And they are preparing our kids to accept their chip readers, which will lead to immunizations on chip readers implanted under the skin. And this is not a conspiracy theory. And the woman or mother added more pictures of the cool inventions that they are marketing to our children via the homeschool narrative. And this is why parents have to be very careful now of what their children are actually watching. They are seeding stuff in cartoons, movies and children's shows now, all to brainwash them for the future. With words like, it's cool. But remember, in the past, they said smoking was cool once in adverts, remember? And it was cool to drink alcohol. But what is cool to them means it's a new program of mind control. A mother in America, I think it was Pennsylvania, used explicit deep fake photographs and videos to try to get her teenage daughter cheerleading rivals kicked off the team. So why is this a news item? Because this has gone too far. Now, Raphael Spone from Pennsylvania reportedly sent the content which showed members of the Victory Vipers team naked, drinking and smoking to the coach. Now, deep fakes use artificial intelligence to doctor images and videos. And Mrs. Spone has been charged with multiple counts of harassment. She was also accused of sending abusive messages to the team, their parents and owners of the cheerleading gym using fake phone numbers. And Mrs. Spone is believed to have used the girls' social media accounts to generate these deep fake images, and authorities traced the phone number that had sent the harassing text messages, which led them to a website that sells numbers to telemarketers. A website that sells numbers. How's that legal? And police then followed the data to an IP address that was tracked to Mrs. Spone's phone. A number of things that I want to bring up about this. There's a number of things wrong with this. But this is part of the seedy culture of the internet that involves blackmail, distortion, abuse, harassment, and vindictive behaviour patterns that has become all too prevalent over the past 2 decades. And it brings up a number of points. One, I said you couldn't trust anything for validity anymore over a year ago. There's your proof. With the advancement of technology, almost anything can be fake to discredit or cheat these days. You know, if they can fake a US president with a mask, what else can they do? Point 2, the me culture is all too pervasive now, and this is an example of it. If it's not me, then I will lie, cheat, steal, and deceive to make sure it is me culture. It's wrong. Point 3, the sporting issue in America is a deep-seated one, all in the chase to get scholarships, regardless of the ability of the child or whether that child wants to engage in that field. And sadly, in many cases, that becomes irrelevant, as abusive parents are trying to live their lives through their child, pushing them into sports for monetary and fame gain. The system created that, but we the people didn't have to go along with it. Point 4, cheerleading. This practice staggers me for its abject abuse of young girls, and parents allowing them to parade about in overtly sexual outfits because their girl achieved the elevated status of a cheerleader. And yet none stop to think, is my child a glorified pole dancer? Now, some may not like that statement, and I don't particularly care. You are selling your girl off as a sexual dancer to titillate the audience. That's what happens when you don't think. And cheerleaders are no different to girls dancing on tables in a bar. And yet, in our lifetime, we saw the rise of feminism. And yet this practice of demeaning young girls persists. All because of parents seeking fame and money for their child, whilst they live off the glory of it, should it be attained, but at what cost? And the point is, you are teaching your child wrong values in life in doing so. Fame and fortune is not the be-all and end-all of life. Overly sexualizing young girls, teaching young girls to be bitchy and competitive, stimulating and enticing pedophiles, and teaching your children to use their bodies to get on in life are not good parenting skills. They're just not. And I know it's the culture here, but your culture is wrong on many levels. The killing of George Floyd last year triggered a national debate about racial injustice, not just in the US, but also in the UK too. I allowed people who are offended by anything and everything to come forward and push their victim-based opinions on everybody else. And this person goes by the name of Naga, Munchetti, who travelled across the UK to understand what race and racism means today. And she said, I've experienced racism. You never forget the first time you hear that painful and distressing word. I was 7 when someone I thought was a friend at school told me they could no longer hang out. They used the P word, not the N word, the P word, making clear the reason was because of the colour of my skin, which is wrong. Now, the P word is Paki, short for Pakistani. And she said the sense of shame was overwhelming for a 7-year-old. and I was told I didn't belong when up until then I assumed I did. And this, to be fair, did go on a lot in the UK. And it's just wrong. From that moment, I knew I was seen as different, and that first hurt never goes away. I grew up in South London. My dad was from Mauritius, and my mum was from India. Both were nurses. They too received racial insults at work, including the P word, which is Paki. And news events last year catapulted the subject of race into many conversations people were having. That was the report. Yes, it was pushed into people's conversations because it's a program being ran on the people. And the issue also is there's far too many people who are victim of something and everything these days. The offended by everything crew and woe is me. That is the real epidemic. Like I have said, this world is racist, every colour and culture. But this label of one group only is a programme. And Miss Munchetti would be better served focusing on the rampant racism within our own culture in India, as it's all too easy to point fingers at others, yet rarely is it pointed at our own. Whites are racist. Everyone? No, but in general. And so is every other colour, due to geneticism, not racism. India is largely all the same colour, and yet they have caste systems. Incidentally, the same as the Jewish people. Same people, same program is why. Caste systems are racism. And yet we have these sanctimonious reporters and media peoples all focusing on one group. But if Miss Munchetti wants to erase racism, then it starts at home and your own culture. Indians object to being called a Paki because they are racist to their neighbouring country, who are also of the same colour. Don't believe me? Then try this next piece then. A controversial new anti-conversion law that criminalises interfaith love has put Hindu-Muslim couples on edge. And now they face the wrath of not only their families, but also the Indian state law. And the reporter went to speak to two of these people, and the girl was terrified, looking out in a safe house. And she was called Aisha, and her boyfriend Santosh. Both of their names were changed, as both of them are on the run for having a different religion. My parents have come to look for me, and they are outside somewhere, Aisha said. We are scared, and we've been asked to stay inside. And the couple, both 29, fled their hometown in the western state of Gujarat. And for now, they're living in a safe house, which is a nondescript 2-storey building in Delhi. Also hiding with them is another couple from Uttar Pradesh state in India's north. And in November, Uttar Pradesh became the first state to pass a law prohibition of unlawful religious conversion ordinance, banning unlawful conversion by force, fraudulent means, or marriage. And they said this was in response to what right-wing Hindu groups called love jihad, an Islamophobic term denoting an alleged plot that accuses Muslim men of seeking to make Hindu women fall in love with them with the sole purpose of converting them to Islam. It defies belief. Banning people being together because they're a different religion is another form of racism in their terms. What happened to the so-called morals of the church and how all people need to be righteous? Yet curiously, all that goes out of the window when it is a different God or religion. Like I've said, with 2/3 of humans following religion on this planet that states it is all so holy and righteous, then why aren't 2/3 of this planet's people in a better state of mind? Which tells thinking people not emotionally attached that religion doesn't work. It doesn't do what it says on the tin and is a failed program. And that is also disgraceful, that. But when people speak without thinking, we end up with stories like this. Yet again, under the banner of trying to combat racism, allegedly, and THI listeners know of the wider agenda, the Mayor of London said this. Mayor Sadiq Khan says he wants fewer white men working in science and engineering, and his plan to fix the situation has sparked a furious online backlash. So he wants to combat racism by actually being not only racist, but sexist as well. And these people call themselves woke. I see them as a joke, except it's not that funny. 86.1% of Brits are white, and 50% of them are men. And that is the sole reason for the higher numbers, Mr. Sadiq. Perhaps you went to Johns Hopkins as well. But can you imagine the white race going into Israel, the Middle East, Africa, India or China and demanding 50% plus of the higher paying jobs? Can you imagine the outrage? And yet we're supposed to tolerate this blatant racism and blights upon the white people. We warned of all this in the From Russia with Love series. It has gone on in stealth mode for at least 110,000 years. Now it's out of the closet and into the public realms, and the stupid, ignorant peoples are going along with it. The systematic attack on the white people is now all in your face. Yet if those same people defend their race, they are labelled white supremacists and Nazis. The previous story, what was her name? Naga Munchetty. Is she a brown supremacist for defending her own race? And the reality is, as it stands, is every colour outside of white are now promoting themselves as supremacists, none more so than the Jewish race. And it's all based on racial divide and conquer against one colour. Mr. Khan, which is a Cohen, should be fired for blatant racism and sexism under the government's own policy guidelines. The point is, and this is a stark fact, the whites represent 750 million people now, which is 600 million less than India, 800 million less than China, and 512 million less than Africa. Despite being predominant in the whole of the Northern Hemisphere, Australia and New Zealand, yet so few are left. Now, why is that? One of the drawbacks I told people to watch out for last year is now starting to unfold. The lack of revenue for individual states and or counties would have a devastating effect. And at some point the shortfall will have to be made up in the revenue. And you all know what that means. Increased property taxes. So the pittance we got from the government will be clawed back in increased taxes on we the people, causing more people to lose homes, businesses and jobs. And this is what I'm getting at with the opening piece tonight. We are too reticent in allowing them to repeatedly make poor decisions that cost us our livelihood, lifestyle, businesses, jobs and homes. Far too reticent. The UK has started already a big jump in council tax bills, and it was all too predictable for those who future think, yet missed by the teeming masses of non-thinking who don't even think in the now, never mind the future. And it's the same applied to the food shortages, according to Mr. Schwab of the Great Reset fame. We forecasted it 2 years ago this month, long before the fake scamdemic unfolded. Perhaps this song will be fitting because it is needed badly.